Welcome to Click Report's WISC-V Smart Template tutorial. I'm going to walk you through this one and also point out some useful tips and tricks for using it. Okay, so after you have scored the WISC-V, you're going to come to this WISC-V Smart Template, and you'll notice that there's multiple different options for reporting. You have the option of reporting your standard battery, just the first 7 subtests, or the ancillary indices. I'm going to show you, so here are all the ancillary indices. Whatever you want to report, you will just check the box, and you'll notice that different boxes populate based on what's checked. And you can check them all or just a few of them, but whatever you checked will show up within your narrative. Okay, now I'm going to jump over to our standard battery and give you a tutorial of how we'll use this one. Okay, so once you start typing in your scores, you'll notice that your percentiles and your descriptors change dynamically for you. And just a note here, we use different descriptors than are in the manual, and it actually states within the manual that their descriptors are arbitrary and can be replaced. This is also a practice that is approved by both NASP and APA. And the reason that we do this is because we want to create a cohesive and parent-friendly report. When you have 20 different score charts describing scores, it's very confusing to people. So we want to be more concise than that. And we do so by having the same descriptors to describe each assessment. Okay, and you're also going to notice as I'm typing my scores in, my bell curve is changing dynamically for me as well. So this is something that you can put into your report to help people further conceptualize your scores for your examinee. Okay, then I'm going to drop down to this box and type in my examinee name and make my selection for gender. And if you're somebody that likes to include confidence intervals, you can do so by clicking this box and typing in your confidence interval numbers. Just a note here, you're going to notice that this runs off of the page, but don't worry, it will be totally visible once you paste this over. Don't worry about not being able to see it on here. Okay, and then this other checkbox is if the examinee has a known language delay or is bilingual. And I'm going to show you where that populates within the narrative. So that will populate as the last sentence of the verbal comprehension section. And it's important, this has a sentence for both a language delay and bilingual. So you're going to need to delete off whatever you don't need and leave whatever you do need there. You don't want to keep both sentences unless, you are testing someone who is bilingual and has a language delay. Okay. And I also want to point out some of the things that have carried over for us. So our examinee name is placed appropriately as well as the appropriate pronouns. And we do have neutral pronouns. So if you select neutral, that's going to be the they, them pronouns. And then we also have our descriptors carried over as well as our standard score and our percentile. And then in any area that was within the below average or lower range, you're going to have a sentence within that composite that gives an evidence-based recommendation. So for instance, you can see that here on visual processing, where it pops out an evidence-based recommendation at the end for you. And that will only show up if the score is below average or lower. Okay, so then after we have all this information, now we want to get it over to our report. And depending on where you write your reports, maybe you do it in Word, maybe you have a report application that you use, you're going to use these different buttons. And I'm going to show you what those do. So I'm going to take this table, copy table. This first copy table button gives you a completely editable table. And I'm going to show you, I have the option of pasting this over using our font that we use on the website, or you can paste it over using the font that's within your report application or Word, and you can make that selection based on just personal preference. And then once you have this over here, you can move things around, you can make things, bigger, smaller, or you can totally delete composites or rows, and you can also add them back. So if you maybe gave 4 subtests within verbal comprehension, you can quickly and easily add those rows if you need them. And then you can type in your information. Okay, and then the next thing we want to do is we want to get our narrative, and you'll use this copy narrative button. and you'll come over, and then same thing as the table, you can right click and make that selection of using our fonts or using your fonts. And then after I have this, I want to go back to this, and now I want to get my bell curve. Or you can get your summary. We have narrative summary, and there's a narrative summary button right next to the narrative. And this just gives you just quick overview of the scores without really explaining them out. And then we also have our composite summary. This can be used in a few different ways. Some people will have to list this just because their program asks for this table somewhere else and you don't want the whole big table. So that might be useful to some people. And then to get our bell curve, just keep in mind, there's not a button for the bell curve up here. And we kind of addressed that right here, but it's a little bit hard to see. So you're going to want to scroll down for your bell curve, and you're going to hit your copy bell curve button. And you want to wait for the confirmation that this has been copied. And once you have that, you'll go back over and you'll paste. You can use Control V to paste, or you can right click and paste that way as well. All right, so now we have our table, our narrative, and our beautiful graph. And I'm going to show you also where you can go to get your score chart. So after I have that, I'm going to go back to my main menu, and your score chart is located right here next to ancillary indices. And you'll notice on here, you can quickly grab your score chart. We also have some testing interpretations if you want to explain out, your standard scores and what exactly the percentiles mean. And then we also have a special blurb for COVID that states, whether a student was wearing a mask or an examinee was wearing, had plexiglass and a mask, or if the assessment was virtual. So that's an option as well. All right, this wraps up our WISC-V template tutorial. Thanks so much for watching. And if you have any questions at all or need any support, please contact us at support@schoolsegclickreports.com. All right, have a good day. Happy reporting.